I think exceeding expectations happens in those tiny little unremarkable moments. That's
Wow.
what being obsessive to me is. That's what, this being detail obsessed is. It's you choose to pay attention when everybody else is looking at the big picture.
This is the Wine and Dine Me podcast. Forget the etiquette. No rules, just real talk. Today on the podcast, I have my friend Alex Schon. Alex is a luxury wedding and event photographer based outside of Philadelphia. Over the past 14 years, he's built his brand on genuine partnership, obsessive hospitality, and a zero management approach to production and attention to detail, shaped by a background in aerospace engineering. A licensed sommelier and father to 10-month-old Penelope with his wife, Caroline, Alex is a firm believer that logistics are the foundation of creative joy. I'm so glad you're here, Alex. I feel like this is such a long time coming. You've been such an amazing supporter and friend, honestly, just like in general, and a great cheerleader, not just to me in this podcast, but to so many people in the industry. So
Oh my
I'm just
gosh.
grateful for you and happy to
Thank
share
you.
this time with you. And reading your intake form before this recording, I'm like, this is going to be a good conversation.
Well, let's not set expectations too high. No, I really appreciate that. I remember years ago, the first time we talked, I was like, oh, she gets it.
Yeah.
You know how you meet? I meet tons of people in the industry, and one of the greatest joys to me in working in this industry is that you never know the personality that you're going to meet. You never know the backstory of somebody that you're sitting next to. I was just at Engage in December, and we were at a community service event. I was talking to somebody next to me, and then come to find out we have almost identical backgrounds, which for me is really, really uncommon.
Yeah.
And it's just such a surprise and a delight when you get to meet people who you really genuinely click with. I
Yeah.
think it's one of the greatest joys in this industry.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're passionate about what you do and to meet other people who share that passion, but then in the same ways, it's cool.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
well, let me just kick off with one of the things that really swept me off my feet from your pre-recording survey. And I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to read what you wrote
Okay.
because it was just perfect. Okay.
Sure.
All right. So you wrote, there was a moment where I stopped caring about whether the photos were going to win an award or get published and realized the thing that actually fulfilled me was this. Did the couple feel taken care of? Did my partners feel supported? Did everyone in that room feel like someone had their back? The photos became the proof of that, not the point of it. The thing most photographers never figure out is that the job isn't just to take pictures. It's to take care of people. The photos are table stakes. I want to talk about what actually looks like to operate as a zero management partner on the wedding day, why I hire planners as assistants rather than photographers, and what it means to hold the same standard for a wrinkle in a linen as I do for the light on someone's face.
Wow, who wrote that?
Who wrote that? That is exactly why I asked you to be on this podcast.
Oh, thank you.
What how did the realization that it's caring for people rather than merely taking pictures, how did that impact your career?
Oh my gosh. In so many good ways. So I started this business over 14 years ago, and I think a lot of us who started in the events industry in the mid 2010s are very, very familiar with the the push for publication. So there was this constant need whenever I was showing up in a room or framing a photo or whatever it was, is the not print
Yeah.
regional gonna want this image? Or in the earlier 2010s, it was like all about awards and getting recognized and everything else. And that's great. It's great to have self-recognition and recognition from your peers. But at a certain point, it stopped being fulfilling to me to be, all about me, me, me. What can I do? What can I get published in? So when I stopped shooting for the awards or the print publication or the Instagram scroll, and I started shooting for the people in the room, it wasn't like this light switch. It wasn't like I'm going to stop making photos for myself and suddenly I'm booking these, multi-million dollar production weddings. It was a lot more gradual than that, but the benefits were twofold. One, I started attracting people who were less interested in the hero shot, those 4 or 5
Mhm.
portraits you see in the magazine or on the Instagram spread. And now I'm attracting clients who are interested in the full story of the day. So I started attracting people who wanted to be taken care of, who wanted to be genuinely understood, not just made to look pretty in front of a backdrop for 20 minutes,
Right.
right? And the bigger shift along with that was how I related to my vendor partners.
Mm.
So it's less about, is a publication happy? Is Instagram happy? Are we shooting for the scroll? It's how can we work together to highlight everybody's work in service of our client, in service of the couple. So I'm talking to the florist, I'm talking to the chef, I'm talking to the designer, I'm talking to the planner, and it becomes genuinely collaborative. And as a
Mhm.
result, the photos get better, right? Because when the couple's happy, when the whole team's aligned, you're not just getting those great 20 minutes of portraits, you're getting 10 hours or a full weekend of a couple who's completely over the moon. And that shows up in every single photo,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's cool to hear you talk about the responsibility that you acknowledge to not just the client who's hiring you. And sometimes I understand you might consider the client the planner who hired you. I don't
Sure,
know. Some
sure.
people have that perspective.
Yep.
But to know that you are carrying the responsibility of representing everyone down to the chef, who's worked so hard
Yeah,
for their food and their beautiful
yeah.
presentation. That's really, really cool because that's a rarity. And I think there are certainly photographers out there who are like, hey, they hired me because I'm the best. Get out of my way. Right.
Well, we can certainly touch on that. Thank you, Reagan. No, I think it's a really important distinction to make where I think people have, especially in the last few years, and there's been this big push where it's like, no shade to you, Reagan the planner, but it's like the planner is the be all end all. And I think there's truth to that, right? If we are partners and there's been a recommendation where it's the see the planner as the client because the planner is your repeat client. I think that's true, but I don't think we should lose sight of what is the end goal here, right? The planner is not just the client, right? They are the orchestrator of this entire production
Right.
in service of our couple,
Right.
our client. So we have to keep in mind that bigger picture here. I think there's such a focus right now of our industry of like, how do I get more leads? How do I get in the pocket of planners? How do like all that? And I think let's take a beat. Let's remember why we're working here in the first place, right? It's great to schmooze a planner, but a planner doesn't care how much butt how much kissing their butt gets
Right.
if
Exactly.
their client isn't happy. And we need to recognize that all these people are involved. It's not just one person. All these stakeholders are here making the client happy, making their
Yes.
vision a reality.
Yes. And that's where, I mean, and I could go on about ego and planners and all of that stuff. But I think, again, this is why we're having this conversation because we are so aligned. And I'm a believer that I could not produce beautiful weddings without every
Yeah.
single vendor there and having a truly collaborative approach instead of I own this and you do what I say. And it's
Mhm.
a very limiting thing. But when you can approach it from a service standpoint and remove the ego and understand that we are serving not only the client, but everyone there, that's when amazing things happen.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is why we hit it off.
Yes.
I
Okay.
love
Talk
it.
to me about you described that you have obsessive hospitality.
Yeah.
What does that look like from a photographer perspective? And if anyone hasn't seen your Instagram, you show little glimpses, but if you could just explain obsessive
Yeah.
hospitality, please.
So, okay, let's think about this. Obsessive hospitality isn't just being nice. That's certainly that's certainly an element to it. You want to be a good person, you want to be warm, you want to be easy to work with. But to me, obsessive hospitality isn't just being nice, it's leadership through attention. It's anticipating needs before anybody asks. So my team jokes that I have this Mary Poppins bag. I have a Mary Poppins suit. So in it, I have liquid IV and 6 flavors and snacks. I have a small pharmacy, a sewing kit. I have industrial zipper lubricant. We have everything that anybody could ever need, but we're also on top of it, and we want to make the experience seamless for a couple. So an example I can think of. It was a few years ago. It was Memorial Day weekend. We're in the Chesapeake. It's a small little town, and everybody's getting ready. I'm with the bride and her family, and two of my team members are with the groom and his family and his friends. And I get a notification from my team member, and she says the groom's brother forgot his bow tie. Like he has nothing, and we're in the Chesapeake, and it's Memorial Day weekend. What are we gonna do? So I get that message, and I think a lot of people's first reaction is, well, let's go tell the planner, let them figure it out.
Yeah, right. Sure.
The planner has so much more to worry about. She has this huge tent built out. She has to get the bride out the door. Hair and makeup is finishing up. Ceremony needs to be set up. The chuppah needs to be decorated. We're on a timeline. The band is arriving. A bow tie for the brother is the last thing a planner or her team needs to worry about. And not that she doesn't have, 8 people on the ground doing stuff, but they all have stuff they need to worry about. So I'm like, all right. I let my assistant know. I said, I want you to go out. I don't care how far you have to go or how much it costs. Find this guy a black bow tie. So she goes out. She finds the one shop that is open on Memorial Day weekend within a 50-mile radius, tries out, begs the guy, the shop owner himself. He's like, I could charge you anything I want. And she's like, yeah, you probably could. She pays for it out of pocket, gets back in time for this ceremony, gives it to the brother, never says a word to anybody. And I think that's the kind of experience where we're protecting people from things that they don't even know that's happening. Like we've had vendors that have made mistakes. We've had timing issues or missed moments or a decor element that goes sideways. I feel that this obsessive hospitality is my team steps in, I step in, we solve it quietly, we solve it collaboratively, and we move on. And if the couple finds out afterwards, great. If not, that's kind of the point, right? That they don't find out. That's the definition of a seamless experience. I'm not here.
Something like that, they will find out,
But after the fact, right? I don't want the bow tie thing, or a decor thing. I don't want a client to be taken out of a moment and be worrying about anything other than being present for their wedding or their event. Right. And I'm not here for the glory. I'm not putting up a sign and being like, oh my gosh, look how great no. It's, the word will get back. That glory will get back, or maybe it won't. I like to think that the people who really excel, the people that are great, are the ones where, you hear a story or two, but it's the dozens of things on the back end that you never hear about that makes it really seamless. I think a good example of this is a lot of people read Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. I love it. It's like my Bible. Mm-hmm. But they read that, and their takeaway is that the magic is in the surprise and delight moments, right? They read the famous hot dog story, and for anybody who doesn't know, well, go read the book. I'll send you a copy. But the famous hot dog story is that at 11 Madison Park, they're known for their incredible culinary achievements, and yet the waiter's listening, and he hears the family is in New York for the weekend, and they're leaving, and they never had a New York hot dog. The waiter hears that, and they run out to a hot dog cart. They bring it back. They plate it. They make it incredible. You can also watch this in the Bear. Yeah. And people hear that and are like, oh my gosh, that's hospitality, right? I need to send them a gift box, or I need to surprise them on the wedding day with something that's going to blow their mind.
Right.
Yeah. If I see those opportunities, heck yeah, I'm going to do that. But I think the real essence of Will Guidara's philosophy is leadership through attention. If you read his book, if you listen to what he talks about, it's not that we're providing a snack or getting a bow tie. It's that we're constantly auditing the environment to identify weaknesses before they cascade. The lesson I got from Unreasonable Hospitality is to listen. to
Hmm.
collaborate. And especially what Will Guidara teaches is you never stop improving your system. And for me, I never stop improving my systems. So the planner doesn't have to, right? So the planner doesn't have to step in and fix that weakness. I think
Hmm.
paying attention, paying close attention is the highest form of hospitality.
That's so good. Well, and also and to further your point, it's not always about the splashiest thing or um a lot of times it is the most simple thing,
Mhm.
like a bow
Yeah.
tie.
Yeah.
And or one time at an event I saw um the boss of my bride um get denied a drink because dinner service was happening. I witnessed it, which it shouldn't have happened in the first
Mhm.
place.
Mhm.
But I saw him feel rejected and have to go back to his seat. And I immediately went up to him and said, "What could I get for you?"
Yeah.
And here he's in a crowd of 200 people and he was seen and
Yeah.
answered, you
Yeah.
know? So it's little simple things.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing. And another thing, and I think this might lead into my next question, is that bow tie is your problem because it slows down your
Yeah.
job, you
Yeah,
know?
it absolutely is. Yeah, it's these little things that can really add up to make a big difference.
Mhm.
And I think when a lot of people think about weddings and events, and especially these multi-million dollar events and productions, it's all about the big picture,
Mhm.
right? But we have to remember that to get to the big picture, there are all these things that have to happen. And we all play roles. And if one little thing goes awry,
Mhm. Mhm.
it can have this cascading effect, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what do you mean when you say that you are a zero management partner? I feel like you've kind of already touched
Yeah.
on that.
Um, yeah. I I've been doing this right 14 years. I've seen all sorts of partners. I have heard horror stories from planners. Actually, you had Calder Clark on a few weeks ago, and she she has some wicked stories about people that have shown up and having to babysit them. Um, I want to be the one vendor that you can remove from your mental checklist entirely. um, so what I mean by that, so Reagan, you're an amazing planner, an amazing designer, and I know you have an attention to detail that is, bar none. Um, you're already when you walk in the room for the reception, you're already doing the room scan, the table scan. I am not claiming to replace that. What I'm doing is making sure that when you get there for that final walkthrough and I'm there with the camera, that there is nothing left to fix. So you've set the room, you've measured everything. I use like my first knuckle and the thumb to measure everything. I've seen
Yeah.
people with straight lines and like everything else. But stuff happens, right? A waiter leans over and bumps a fork or something like
Yeah.
that. So we've already caught that. We fixed that. We have already mapped out the pressure points on the timelines. I have internalized all the family names. I have taken care of all the travel logistics for myself, for my team. We communicate. We're efficient. We have on the photo front our own plan A, B, and C that we've coordinated with the team, with the planner. We are never behind. You're not sitting around answering our questions. We're not pulling on your bandwidth. Our goal as a team, Alex Schon, is to show up one step ahead and stay there. So I think, true leadership, if we talk about obsessive hospitality is leadership, I think true leadership in this industry is about trust. I want you, Reagan, I want the planner to trust my team so implicitly that you can remove my name from your mental checklist entirely. Like, I'm not just following a set of your instructions. We're collaborating to elevate the entire production because when you have the freedom to do that, you can focus on your craft, right?
Right.
Everybody can excel rather than me being a tax on you.
Right. Right. Well, and it's, admittedly, anytime detail shots are happening, I generally like to be in the room just because it's not to babysit the
Yeah.
photographer. It's to just make sure like, okay, they're getting that angle. What am
Mhm.
I seeing that they may or may
Yeah.
not see? So like the fact that you're already thinking through the planner lens.
Mhm.
And also, you mentioned you hire planners as assistants. What?
Yeah.
Explain that.
um, I love it. So this was a shift that happened where I used to hire photographers as my assistants because I thought like, oh, they're gonna know how to put up a light stand or hold a reflector, whatever it was. I'm like,
Mhm,
I can teach people that. That's
mhm,
fine. And if I need another angle, I used to have like shooting assistants where I'm like, oh, I don't really need a full another photographer, but maybe they can get a photo from above of the ceremony. I realized if I need another angle, if I need another photographer, I'm going to hire another photographer. They'll be my third, my fourth, my whatever shooter. What I need from an assistant is somebody who can handle logistics. And who better to understand the flow of a wedding day than
yes,
a wedding planner? So, what I want when somebody assists me is somebody who's an expert in logistics, an expert in people management, somebody who knows how to fold a drape so that the bottom of it is clean, somebody who knows how to align a table, somebody who knows how to protect the design and the flow intent of the day. And that's what planners do. Most photographers are just there to shoot a space and make pretty photos.
right.
Great. I want people on my team who understand the vision so that we can protect it.
Mm, that's so good. Well, you recently did a Instagram post that I loved. I reshared it because I just thought it was great. And it was you breaking down your pre-wedding prep process. You are truly mapping out the position, the angles, the timing of your entire team in advance. It's not like, okay, ceremony, you go over there, you go, you
Mhm.
get that shot, whatever. You are going deep in your planning. And I thought, not all photographers do that. And that it was eye opening for definitely the consumer to understand that a great photographer is more than someone who just shows up with a very expensive
Yeah.
camera.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious. You have a aerospace engineering background, and does your experience in that field where precision matters and systems matter and calm under pressure, does that have any influence in your photography work?
So there's there's a joke that what we do is not rocket science. I'm like, well, it kind of is. Um, so no, yeah, I think it does. And it was certainly not the conventional path to the hospitality industry, to the events industry that I think most would take. But I think coming from an engineering background, from an aerospace engineering background, especially, uh, has really benefited me on this journey. And I'm not here to pat myself on the back or tell everybody that they need to go be an engineer before they're a photographer. No. But so what you were touching on the post, I said, I used to be a rocket scientist. Now I'm a wedding photographer, and they're not that different. And people are like, what? So what I did, I used to work at Lockheed Martin. I went to school for engineering. That's what I thought my chosen path would be. My dad was an engineer. He always wanted an engineer son. He finally got it. I went to school. It was great. I graduated to work for Lockheed Martin. That's the dream, right? Be a rocket scientist. Um,
That's
clearly,
just unbelievable. I still can't believe it.
well, clearly that path has taken a little diversion, right? But when I think about it, when I think about, is engineering related in any way to photography? Um, I think what we do day to day could not be more different, right? But if we take a step back and we look at the bigger picture, they're really not that different.
Yeah.
So at Lockheed, I was doing analysis on flight vehicles, and that's part of a system with literally tens of thousands of components where one small failure on one component can cascade into a catastrophic failure. What does that sound like? It's a wedding day. It's a wedding. It's identical.
Yes.
So as a photographer, if I take 5 minutes too long on family photos, that's going to delay the bride bustling her dress, which
Uh,
delays the entrance to the reception, which delays speeches, which pushes the kitchen behind, which makes the steak overcooked, right? 5
yeah.
minutes of a photographer getting greedy has just ruined the meal service, has stressed out the kitchen, the chef, the planner, the band, and
Yes.
ultimately the client's experience. So in aerospace, we'd call those mission critical systems, right? Where one failure isn't a statistic, it's a catastrophe. And in aerospace, the acceptable failure rate is literally 1 in a billion. They call it the 10 to the minus 9.
Mm.
So I come from an industry where 99.99% reliability isn't good enough to keep a plane in the air, right? Whereas most of the wedding industry, we're just hoping for the best, right?
Yeah.
But engineering teaches you that you're part of something bigger. You have to have plans in place. So when I was an engineer, I'm talking to a stress engineer, an aerodynamicist, an electronics packaging team, and we're all answering to the same customer, right? On a wedding day, I'm talking to the videographer, to the chef, to the planner, to the florist, to the couple. They're different disciplines, but we have one mission where
Yeah.
failure is not an option. I like to think of it as nobody watches NASA fly a rocket and think about the 10,000 decisions that led up to that moment. They just watch it fly. And that's the goal, right?
God, I just feel so seen right now. Honestly, like every single wedding, there's a point where I'm talking to the captain being like, okay, what's our dinner timing like?
Mhm,
Let me shift this band. I mean, it's a moment of like, okay, first dance is now here and
mhm,
now I got to communicate it. Da, 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 da. That's just like part of the game.
mhm. Yeah,
And to
and it's
be
not to
like,
say that things can't change, right?
sure.
That Lynn and Dawson just talked about like event perch and how it's so satisfying to update one line
Yes.
item where a speech runs long and everything in cascade and move up. But I think it's important to notice that even when we're changing things on the fly, we're not by the seat of our pants. We've done the work ahead of time where we have these contingency plans. Okay, if something needs to push, what are we doing on the back end to make that
Yeah,
happen? Is
absolutely.
the band, is the chef, is everybody prepared to pivot? So we have all those plans in place. That's what the really good planning teams do, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. So how do you prepare your team so that when they come on, what is the communication like? Because you've
Mhm,
done all the mapping out and the
mhm.
pre-planning yourself and coordinating with the planner. How do you convey that to your team so that they're on board and know how to execute?
So I think that's a great question. I think it's kind of twofold. I think the first part is how I build my team, and then the second part is how it can all work together.
Mm.
So I build my team. I build my team by strength, not just by who's available. So it really benefits us to play off of our strengths within our team. So yeah, I could take photos of food. I could take photos of spaces. I do that for corporate clients all the time. But on a wedding day, there are only so many minutes, there are only so many hours. And my time is best spent being the project manager of my team and being present for the client facing moments. I think
Mhm.
it's very similar in planning, right? Reagan, you could try to run around and do everything yourself,
Right.
but your best time is spent managing the people to get their strengths, to get their stuff done, and being present for the client facing moments so that when things do pop up, you're present for them. So what I do, I hire by strength. So if we need documentary or fashion photography or editorial photography or food photography or architectural photography or licensed drone, I'm hiring people from my team that specialize in each. Where if we're spending $500,000 on food and beverage, why wouldn't I hire somebody and bring someone on whose only job it is to make that food exceptional?
Right.
Same with the architecture, same with the behind the scenes documentation.
Mm.
If I know that there's a 5-day build for this event, I'll bring people on my team where we are like the rest of the team is off doing client stuff, doing wedding day stuff. And then we have a fourth person on the team who's just there for the vendors, for our partners, showing all the work that goes into it. Because, so to answer your question, why I build my team this way, if anybody ends up being stretched too thin, we're missing moments. So the way I set these expectations is that on bigger events, we have a team meeting beforehand. So I build out this obscene planning document for our team that is pages and pages and pages long. And it's not just the timeline, but kind of shooting assignments. things to be on the lookout for, who's going to be where and when. And that has our floor plans. It has family names and faces. It has vendor contacts. What I'm doing with that document is making sure that there's no overlap, that people aren't stepping on their toes. And what this gives us is it gives us really complete coverage. So now we know who needs to be where and when. We're not doing things on the fly, right?
Yeah.
And that's not to say we can't pivot, right? But
Right.
we've talked about when we need to pivot. We've ahead of time. We're not planning for a perfect day. We would love a perfect day, but we're not planning for that. We've already talked about our pivots and our backup plans. What that does for my team is it removes any ambiguity, right? So it's not they're coming to me, oh my gosh, it's about to rain. What do we do? No, they already know what they're going to
They
do.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. They know. I like how you said it. You were like, you do all this planning so that when things do pop up, you're present for that. Everything else has been
Yeah.
sorted out. And that level of preparation, because we do that, but we're also expected to do that. Like the
Sure.
client
Sure.
Facebook,
Yeah.
we send it out to every single participating vendor down to the rental company. And then
Yeah.
and we even include like things to note, like
Which is amazing.
blah blah blah. And like the rental companies now are
Everybody
like,
did this.
they're like, what's the juicy thing for
Yeah.
this wedding? We can't wait to hear. But
Yeah.
my point is in preparing that, inevitably, there is something that we're like, ooh, we need to tighten that up.
Yeah.
Or, it's just that extra layer right when you think everything's done. There's always more to get ahead of that,
Sure. Yeah.
potential something.
You don't show up to a Broadway show and think that this is the first time they're performing it, right?
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
there's all this work that goes on ahead of time, but that's what enables your team. That's what enables my team and everybody on the wedding day to operate efficiently.
Right.
And there's also that thing where it's um, I never want to face a client and say I don't know,
Oh,
or
yeah.
face the planner and say I don't know. It's
Right.
always let me find out for you. Or
Yep.
even better, we've already dealt with that, and it's here's my plan A, B, and C.
Right.
I've heard a great story. It's from Adam Savage, who used to be a MythBuster, but he worked for Industrial Light and Magic, and he talks about he was on a set and he was building a prop for a stunt, and everything went wrong. And the director said, "What are we going to do? It's broken." And he said, "Without missing a beat, here are your three options.
Mm.
Option one is going to take us 20 minutes and it'll be satisfactory. Option two, we'll get it filmed by the end of the day and it'll look a little bit better. Or option three, if we can push to tomorrow, it'll look exactly the same. What do you want to do? I'm ready to execute on any of three of those plans." Amazing, right? That's what we want to
Amazing.
bring. That's the energy that we want to bring. Nobody wants to hear, I don't know, right? They
Right.
want to hear, I have a plan for that.
Yeah. You mentioned that you're detail obsessed, but it comes from a place of care and not anxiety. And that's a very important distinction.
Sure. Yeah, I think, one, I think everybody should have a therapist. That's really helpful.
Amen. Amen. Yes.
I think the difference between anxiety and care is that anxiety is inward facing, care is outward facing.
Ugh.
So anxiety to me is a reactive, it's this buzzing energy. Someone's worried, someone's, thinking it's stuff in their head, and that can be really insidious to your thought process and to your end product.
Mhm.
Care is proactive stewardship. So I was the I was the person, my my dad being an engineer, he always told me that perfection is the enemy of done or good enough. So I was the
Mm.
person who, when I was a kid, when I was in school, I was scolded for being a perfectionist and being told good enough is good enough. Um, but I think being obsessive is in service to your client and in service to the planner. Not to
Mhm.
bring up unreasonable hospitality again, but I think it's so good. I think in that book, Will Guidara talks about the 1 inch rule. And the 1 inch rule is that you can do everything right. You can source the best ingredients. You can hire the best team. You can plate the most beautiful food. You can cook it perfectly. The waiter brings it out on a beautiful platter and he sets it down. And 1 inch from the plate, he drops it. What that means on a wedding day is that you can do everything right for 6 months or 16 months. Everything can be going perfectly according to plan. And then you get the gallery back, and there's a crooked chair.
Uh,
One crooked chair
yep.
in the final gallery can cast doubt on the entire integrity of a multi-million-dollar production, which is
Yeah.
crazy, right? Because you've done all this work, you did everything.
Yeah.
But to me, you know, I think exceeding expectations happens in those tiny little unremarkable moments. That's
Mm,
what being obsessive to me is. That's what, this being detail obsessed is. It's you choose to pay attention when everybody else is looking at the big picture. So
yeah.
my obsession, despite what my dad believed when I was a kid, my obsession isn't a burden. It's not a delay. We're working radically efficiently on the day of, but I look at photography as the final filter. It's the final product, right? It's
Yeah.
what people see after the wedding day. So I
Right.
want to be rigorous on the day, and I especially want to be rigorous in the gallery. I want to
Yeah.
be certain because I'm providing the proof of value. I'm providing the proof of value that allows you, the planner, to exhale and know that your design, your intent is protected in this permanent record.
Yeah. There's nothing worse, Alex. I mean, this has happened to me where we have a beautiful production. The design was one of my favorites, and if photos came and they just fell flat, and like I can't use them. And that is a huge investment,
Yeah.
especially when you're only doing a handful of weddings a year. You
Yeah.
put so much into the photographer,
Yeah.
and to not be able to use that work is really sad.
It's a catastrophe,
Yeah.
right? It is. And to me, I think the biggest shame in what you just said is that you did your job. Your
Yeah.
team did their job. Everybody knocked it out of the park. And what do you have to show for it?
Yeah.
You have people in the room that are very happy, which is fantastic. And then someone says, "Oh, I'd love to see that." And you're like,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
In our industry, images are currency. They're social proof. They're proof to the client.
Mm.
And that's what we walk away with. And I I try not to get a big head where it's like, oh, photographers are so important. At the end of the day, our job is to take some pretty pictures and go home. But it is really important when we are the last inch. We are.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny,
Yeah.
thinking about it. You are the chef de cuisine. You are the owner. We are the waiters putting it down on that table, right? And it is our
Yes.
job to make sure that all this work that leads up to that moment, we're there to finally deliver it at the
Oh
end.
my gosh. I love how you just put that. That's wild. It's so
Oh,
true. And on top of it, you think about, you don't know the little investments that maybe the florist put in an extra
yeah,
$5,000 to beef
yeah,
up that head table, or
yep,
maybe the planner went, in invested some money in that custom bar
yeah,
that the client almost didn't go for.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
it's not just the work, it's the investment that people are
mhm,
maybe doing, and they're counting on that delivery. It's
yeah,
oof.
yeah.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. What actually, okay, so next question. What do planners do that make photography better instantly? Or it doesn't have to be instantly. And what do photographers do that can make the planning
Oh
harder?
my
That's a good, I know you're going to be all about that.
this
Let's
is
start with the planner.
loaded.
Let's start with the planner. What can
Let's
the
start with the
planner do?
planner. I think one of the things that you just mentioned is really important to touch on, where uh, we're in the business, or at least the people that I really gravitate towards, and one of the reasons that I immediately gravitated towards you was that we're in the business of going above and beyond. I know I got married in 2019. Our own wedding planner, Pam, bless her heart, she's amazing. She did stuff just like that. We showed up on the wedding day. We were the clients, and she said, "I saw the staircase. It looked kind of blank. I had Holly, the florist, come in, and she did a full installation on the staircase. Don't worry about it. It's my gift to you." Oh, well, that's amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
You bet your butt I turned to our photographer and said, I want you to shoot the snot out of that. Right.
Yeah.
So it sounds so fundamental. What can a planner do to make photography better? But it's at its foundation, it's this collaborative curation, it's this collaborative communication. It's treating our partners, our vendors, the people on the wedding day, not just as people to show up and do a job, but team members. We are seeing us as part of a bigger team. Um, my One of my favorite planners I work with, and we do. She only does a few weddings a year, but every year we do a few weddings together. Um, we've been working together for years. Every single time we book a wedding together, she asks me, "Who do you think is the best videographer match for this couple?"
Mm.
And she's not just defaulting to a preferred list. She understands that every couple's different, every wedding's different, and she wants to see who's the best match for this couple, who's the best match for this team. It's very collaborative, right? So we're thinking about the chemistry of the whole team, and the question, what do you think,
Mhm.
whether we're 18 months out or 8 weeks out, really can transform the process from a set of instructions from the
Right.
planner into a
Yes.
true collaboration, which
Yes.
means I get to bring my strengths to the table early, right? And it just makes it more fun, right? So when we hit the wedding day, the light, the logic, all that's already synced. It's I get to now be in my creative joy because I'm seen as a person, I'm seen as a collaborator. We get to work together. So that's what planners can do.
Let's talk about your pricing philosophy and why you haven't done what a lot of photographers did post COVID. What is it that a lot of
Yeah.
photographers did post COVID?
Whoa, we might ruffle some feathers here.
Let's hear it.
But the truth is, and I don't think it's a secret, post COVID, a lot of photographers doubled or tripled their rates
Right.
because they could.
Right.
Uh, Talk about supply and demand. The demand was there, the supply was the same. So it's not just photographers, by the way, but photographers, their calendars filled up. It worked.
Yeah.
They're charging more and more and more. I think there's this kind of mindset where if I book one wedding for X number of dollars, suddenly I'm an X number of dollars wedding photographer,
Oh,
which is really fun to explain to people in the industry that's might not be a recipe for long-term success.
yeah. Yeah.
But I think it was really troubling because now we have planners who are stuck explaining to their clients why their wedding costs double what their sisters did in
Yeah.
2019, and they have nothing concrete to point to.
Where's the added value?
Where's the added value? So what I've done is I have just grown steadily since the beginning. On my back end, I have a percentage of year-on-year growth. It is slightly more than inflation, but it is not unreasonable. But my biggest thing is that Aesop fable, slow and consistent.
Yeah.
And it has taken time. I did not wake up one day and just decide that I'm a luxury photographer, right? And I also didn't start 4 years ago, or, it could have been 14 years ago. I have instances of friends where they were happily charging what they did for years and years and years. And then this COVID bubble happened. They rode the bubble and now they're charging triple what they used to.
Yeah.
Because I have grown steadily, consistently, slowly, it has really not to sound conceited, but or pat myself on the back, like, but it's really benefited me in kind of a selfish way. Like, I have shot multiple weddings with the same family over the
Mhm.
course of years. So
Right.
just this past weekend, I shot a wedding where it was the second sister of three to get married. The first one booked in 2022, the second one booked in 2024, and the third one just booked and she's getting married in 2027. So there's this over 5 year span that I'm working with this family. I can tell you, I'm not charging the same price for the sister who's getting married in 2027 is the one who booked in 2022.
Right.
But the rate increases have been predictable and they've been defensible.
Sure.
So I have more team members. I have a more robust back end. I'm taking on fewer weddings. I'm delivering more value. I'm doing faster turnaround times. So nobody is doing math that they
Right.
can't explain. I
Right.
think the bigger issue that this is what could really get me in some hot water with some of my peers. But I think the bigger issue is dynamic pricing. And I don't fault people who price based off of time of year or availability. What I think the dangerous slope is seeing photographers, and I got a question from a videographer friend last month, and he said, "Oh, so and so inquired with me. What should I charge?" And I said, "You charge what you charge." So
Right.
there are these photographers who see a high-profile planner's name on an inquiry. They see Reagan pop into their inbox, and they go, "Oh," and then they add a few $1,000s
Yeah.
because they think the client can afford it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Planners are not dumb. You talk to each other, they know what you charge. The thing for me, the takeaway is the moment a planner discovers
Yeah.
that you quoted her client 20% more than you
Yeah.
quoted somebody last month, that trust is gone. The
Totally
contract
gone.
is not even signed. That trust is gone. And if
Totally
you
gone.
don't have that trust from the first email, you are not a partner, you are a liability.
And you might think, oh, well, that planner's a percentage-based planner. I'm going to put a few extra dollars in
Mhm.
her pocket. Wrong. Like totally wrong. Because
And
yeah, planners who are
and putting you in a
percentage-based.
wildly uncomfortable place to be
Oh,
in.
exactly. Sure. Are there some bad apples in there that wouldn't mind? Absolutely. But I think
Mhm.
the most frustrating argument for planners who are percentage based are we're operating off of integrity. That is the only way this works.
Mhm.
And
Yep,
we are fighting for every single dollar of that client, even if that means a dollar less in our pocket.
yeah,
And it just, that's how you get that trust and longevity with clients and
yeah,
your repeat clients. Yeah. You hit the
yeah.
nail on the head,
You
Alex.
cannot break that trust.
Mhm.
Marcy Bloom just talked about this a couple weeks ago, where she named some names because, bless her, she can do that, queen. Uh, but she said she had an experience with a fellow planner who had been charging commissions on everything for forever, and that's just how she operated. And the client walked in. The client walked in and said, "That's not a $25,000 cake." And she said, "No, it's a $15,000 cake, and I got 10K of it." I'm like, holy shit! Like
Yeah, that's
it's
crazy.
it's it's a very it's very prevalent, and I think it's very short-sighted of a lot of people in this industry to do that. And I think we just need to be better as an industry. And
Yeah.
here's my biggest problem with it is I've been talking to couples for so long, and I was on the board of our professionals association, WIPA, and everything else, and we had these conversations where the wedding industry has built this we haven't built it. We have been given this reputation of taking couples for a ride. How many times have we
Yeah.
heard this story of, "Oh, well, you should inquire as a milestone celebration rather than a wedding because a wedding has a wedding tax."
Right. Exactly.
There is a certain element where it's like, yes, a wedding is fundamentally different than a milestone celebration, but it's not the explanation there that matters. It's the intent behind what couples are thinking. They're thinking, because I'm getting married, a couple's trying to take advantage of me. What are you doing if you are walking into the room and taking advantage of
I
a
know.
couple? You
And
are
it doesn't
playing into that.
it's not it won't last, and,
No.
it's actually Marcy on, the Frida podcast,
Yeah.
or a week or I think that's what
Yeah,
you're
when she was
talking about.
talking to David Stark. Yeah.
Exactly, and it might have worked years ago
Mhm.
when, um, wedding vendors weren't able to charge what they were charging, so they had to make up income in other
Yeah.
ways, and now when you're getting paid a premium price,
Mhm.
that the other stuff, it's just not, ethical. It's
No.
just not
Not.
ethical, and it needs to stop, and I do think they're cutting old habits of people who started maybe, like, I don't know, these are, like, old systems that are going out, and
Mhm.
especially with the Gen Z client.
Are you hop on Reddit?
I was
I'm
just
on
gonna
TikTok.
say,
These couples are talking. I was just
yeah,
talking to a friend in the Northeast, and I said, "You guys know that your pricing, full pricing, is laid out to bear on Reddit along with the 20 other planners in your market?"
yeah,
And she said, "Are you kidding me? This information's out there."
yeah,
And again, to the point, if I'm a photographer and we'll just pull numbers out. If I'm a photographer and I'm used to charging $18,000 for my weddings. And then a
mhm,
Reagan client comes along and I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to charge 25." You
mhm,
don't think that bride
yeah,
isn't on Reddit or isn't talking to her friends or isn't like, this is the thing with the family, right? If I went up to that family and I said, "I'm charging double now," they're like, "Well, I can pull up the contract and I will know what you charged me 2 years ago." People don't forget, people talk. And again,
mhm,
it needs to be defensible and you need to show the value. Again,
yeah,
it's not enough to say, "Oh, I booked one $38,000 wedding. I'm going to charge $38,000 forever." You might book a few more of those and power to you. But
mhm,
eventually there's going to come a point where you have to explain, what value am I bringing? It's
yeah,
fine to increase prices. I'm not saying it's
absolutely.
not, but you have to be able to defend it.
Well, and on the flip side too, I had a great conversation about this with Abby Zhu, and we were talking about dynamic pricing, not in terms of a different price for a different planner, but more of just riding the market.
Mhm,
And yes, that post-COVID bubble has popped,
mhm.
and that means that in order to remain competitive, it's okay to reduce your pricing
Yeah,
too. It's like
sure.
your house. One day it could be 750K, then one day it's a million, and then one day the market changes and it's 900, and it doesn't, the house is still the house, right?
Mhm.
It's just the market
It
changes.
it's a very difficult conversation to have with people, right? Because
Yeah.
that we are in an emotionally driven industry, which
Yeah.
is very hard to separate from the logic of the industry. You tell people that, and people, they internalize, "Well, that means I'm worth less."
Yep.
I'm not worth less, but I'm worth less. And it's not. It is really important to recognize that the industry, it ebbs and flows, and
Right.
that's okay,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Oh man, I've had some. I don't know if this will make it in the final recording, but I've had some photographers who have asked me. They said, "Hey, I was doing great for years and years and years. How many times in the last 2 years have we heard the phrase, 'Oh, 2025, 2026, they're such weird years'?"
Oh yeah.
Oh man, it's not that they're weird years, it's that they're return to normalcy years. It's a return to
Absolutely.
2019 year. And the problem is when you don't understand that the market fluctuates or don't want to accept that the market fluctuates, you are now in a position where you've raised your prices so much that you alienated your existing core base. You have not solidified yourself in this new market that you think you belong to. And you're in this no man's land, right? Your
Yeah.
old clients aren't calling you with referrals, and your new partners don't see the value that you're bringing, or the budgets aren't there to support that. So
Right.
now you're in this weird year where you don't have any weddings booked. So I think it's really important, really, really important that fundamentally, if you're running a business, you have to keep an eye on the industry and you have to keep an eye on what you're doing and
Yes.
how you're running.
Yep. Absolutely. Great advice. Or you're going to just be left in the dust, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely. But that's another thing. That's why people like us who've been in it for 14 years, we get it, because we have now ridden a few waves, right? We
Yeah,
know.
and it won't be the last.
It won't.
It won't. It
God
won't be the
willing, it
last.
won't be as bad as COVID, but
No. Oh my gosh. No, please.
not
Like
in our
knock on
life.
all the wood. But
Um,
yeah.
let's get personal.
Okay.
So you recently became a father to sweet
Yeah.
little Penelope, who, if you haven't seen her beautiful
Oh.
hair and sweet face, like, go
Oh.
to his Instagram immediately. Um, but how has becoming a father changed your perspective
Oh.
when photographing?
Uh, it sounds all right. It's gonna sound cliche and it's gonna sound mushy. But it really has changed everything. And okay, I'm at the end of every year, I sit down and I write a letter, and the letter is not like, we went here, we did this, we did that. I don't think anybody's interested in hearing about all our travels. I like to take a step back, and even if it's just for me, and reflect on how my year has changed as a whole and can how that can be framed to apply to all of us. So the topic of this year's letter was that it's actually in this book right here. I started taking a single Polaroid photo of Penelope
Yeah.
every single day. And it wasn't the big milestones. It wasn't the huge achievements. Sometimes they're fun. Yesterday, she had her first swim lesson. That's super exciting. We took a Polaroid of that. But the day before, it was just she was hanging off of Caroline's legs while Caroline was cooking dinner in the kitchen.
Sweet.
Sometimes it's at Nana's house. Sometimes we're on a walk. It's to me, being a dad has reframed that it's not just about the big days.
Yeah.
That's not what defines a year. That's not what defines our life. It's the accumulation of those smaller, quiet ones. It's the small, quiet ones. So now when I'm listening to a Father of the Bride speech,
Oh,
I'm not just thinking about a speech, right? I've gotten choked up because I'm hearing a dad talk about
yeah.
what it means to love this person, and I've thought about that. I look at her, I'm like, oh my gosh, like you're so small, and someday you're going to grow up and be your own person. And I hear these dads talk about loving a kid and then letting them go, letting them be their own person. And between that and these little Polaroid moments, now what I'm looking for more than ever, I always approached weddings as like a documentary photographer and telling the
Yeah.
story of the day. But to me now it's all about these in between moments and these little quiet exchanges. And it's about a legacy. It's a legacy of a weekend that's unfolding in real time. And my hope when it comes to a set of wedding images, we're going to have amazing portraits. We're going to have beautiful family photos, group photos, all that good stuff. But for me, it's the realization that a wedding is a culmination in literally thousands of these unremarkable, quiet little days that have led up to this weekend. And what I wrote in December is that being a dad has taught me that life doesn't need to be loud to be full. And it's my job as a wedding photographer to make sure that these little bits of wonder, these little Polaroid moments are just as important as the big ones.
Yeah.
It's the best. It's the best thing ever. It's incredible. I've never been more caffeinated. I'll tell you that. But it has been such a fundamental reframing and shift, and it's incredible.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. Let's talk about your passion for various hobbies, antiquing, which I know that's just another thing we connect on. Our antiques, cooking, design. I was so excited to when I learned that you were a licensed sommelier because wine education is actually one of my um, New Year's resolutions.
Oh,
I'm like,
let me make it happen. Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah. So, like, how did that come about? Where do I
yeah.
start? Like, and how do you have time for all of this?
I don't. It's
Yeah.
fine. You
Yeah.
figure it out. Um, oh my gosh. So wine began like a lot of my hobbies. So I've become a collector of hobbies. My wife will be the first one to tell you that. And it's I think of the Ron Swanson quote, don't half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing. And I'm like, well, why don't we just whole-ass everything? So the wine thing, it began it began where I would walk in to our wine shop, look at the wall, and go, I don't know what to do. And now
Sure.
I'm pulling up like a Vivino app and seeing somebody rated this 4.4 stars out of 4.1 stars, and who knows, or reading ratings and everything else. And I said, I want to be able to walk into that shop, know what's for dinner, look at that wall, and pick the right bottle and be out of this store in under 5 minutes and feel confident about my decision. So it started out, I watched some YouTube videos, I read some books, still have some of the books, but it wasn't satisfying. So I whole assed it. I went to school. We're lucky enough in Philadelphia to have the top independent wine school in the country, which is really cool.
That's
Um,
so cool.
so I went all in. But it was kind of cool in that I wasn't I wasn't just learning about wine. I felt like wine in particular really resonated with me. I like wine. It tastes good. That resonated with me. But it really resonated with me because I think a lot of people think about wine and they think it's this like really esoteric thing, and it's all about the taste or the production side of it. Uh, but it really scratched an itch for me because wine wine is this marriage of technique and story. So you need good grapes, you need good land, you need to know what you're doing in the cellar. But it's not just enough to have good raw material. It's about what you're doing. It's about how you're growing it. It's about the technique and the vision that you're executing. And this may sound like it has some parallels, right? So you can have the best light, you can take the best photos, you can edit, but it's how you as a person are interpreting what you have and what you see and what you're given to create the end product. One of my favorite examples of this, there are two vineyards in Australia. They're sister vineyards. They're on the same plot of land. They
Uh-huh.
grow the same grapes. They have the same sunshine, the same irrigation. Everything's the same.
Hmm.
One of them uses American oak. The other one uses French oak. You taste those wines side by side, they could not be more different. One of
Wow.
them is a very austere, refined, restrained wine, and the other one, like the one that uses American oak, is just like this big, dumb, fun fruit bomb. It's both of them are fantastic.
Hmm.
Same raw ingredients, different approach. And to me, like I was thinking about this when we were talking about wine and weddings and hobbies and everything else. And I thought I think it's really cool because it is about approach.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that really I love about the Somm world is that a Somm isn't somebody who likes wine. I would hope you'd like wine, but a Somm is not defined by somebody who likes wine. A sommelier is somebody who guides somebody through something that they love,
Yeah.
right? It's somebody who works in hospitality.
I love it.
The sommelier is somebody who curates and serves the wine.
Yeah.
And I think that that is so resonant where it's not about the grapes, it's not about the raw ingredients, it's not even about the wine. It's about helping the person in front of you
Right.
enjoy the experience and share something that you're passionate about.
Sure. Yeah. Gosh, that's
Cool.
so cool. I never thought about it like that. But they're
Yeah.
listening. You're the expert, but
Yeah.
you're listening to what makes that person tick and
Yeah.
what will be yeah. Oh man, that's good.
I gotta say, Reagan, there is nothing more satisfying, both in photography and in wine. There's how many times have we heard the phrase, "Oh, I hate getting my photo taken," and
Yeah.
then as a photographer, I'm like, "Oh, let's go, let's change that." There is nothing more satisfying than introducing a friend. My own wife, I hate red wine. I just can't. I'm like, yet. You have not
Yeah.
tried one you have liked yet. And then we can really dig into why. There's
Yeah.
there's a whole psychology behind wine pairings where my wine instructor in Philly talked about um, so there are certain wines, especially like Nebbiolo is known for the smell of like tar and crushed rose petals. And he had a student who every time he opened a Barolo, she revolted, like could not smell it, had a visceral reaction to it. And this is one of the most prized wines in the world. Barolo commands super high prices. Everybody seems to love it. And she couldn't stand it. She had other red wines that was fine. And then he started digging into it. He said, "Well, what do you smell?" And she went through the notes that she could smell, and she talked about roses. And he said, "Is there anything in particular that you just find particularly offensive?" And she said, "Yes, the smell of the dried flowers in it. It makes me think of my mom's funeral. It makes me think
Wow.
of death." Who would have thought?
Yeah.
So there's this whole layer to, okay, well, now we know that, right? We're definitely not
Yeah.
going to serve you a Barolo. We're not going to serve you something with those notes. But we can also lean into things that people do love or don't know that they love. And um, if you were to ask me what my favorite wine is, I think the answer is probably going to change on a year by year basis. Right now, I'm still on an Argentina kick. We went to Argentina. We had the time of our lives. Every time I drink an Argentinian Malbec or a Cab Franc, I think of our time in Mendoza with our driver Francisco and had the best time ever, right? You know,
Yeah.
there are things that we can do through taste and through experience that bring up these good memories and make sure
Yeah.
that people have a great time. It's not just about, well, you should be having this because that's what a book tells
Yeah.
me pairs well,
Yeah.
right? It's all about the experience.
Well, that ties into also the last thing I wanted to ask you about is just going back to your love of antiques and
Yeah.
filling your home with these intentional objects. And I think this would be a great way to summarize our conversation. But tell me why details and story matter so much to you.
Oh, that's a hard one to answer. I think because it's like so, to me, it feels so fundamental. I'm not a person who goes into a big box store and gets a piece of decor because they feel the need to put something on their walls. um, I I think it's incredible that we have objects and experiences that remind us of story and remind us of place and um, not to sound too woo, but like it puts things in perspective and it brings it's a serotonin boost. It brings back those good memories, those good times. I think about I in our dining room we have a blue and white plate on the wall, and it looks like you could get anything from Home Goods that looks similar, sure, um, but it wouldn't have the weight of the emotional weight of this 250-year-old plate that we found on the outskirts of Hoi An in Vietnam and wrapped it up in newspaper and put it in our suitcase
Yeah.
and brought it all the way
Yeah.
home. Every time I walk past that, I'm back in that market with my wife as we're poking around and exploring
So,
Vietnam. And I think that's really cool. And I think of it like this. Our lives are already so cluttered. We think about how much we are inundated with digitally on Instagram, on TikTok, on ads, on everything around us that I I feel I don't have bandwidth for noise. If something is going to take up physical space in our lives or emotional weight, it deserves to have a soul. It doesn't
ah,
even have to be a physical object. Like even the lullaby that I sing to Penelope every night is the same one that my mom sang to me, that her mom sang to her. And every time I sing that, I'm reminded of my mom. I'm reminded of my grandmom. And I hope one day Penelope will be reminded of these moments together. And I think it's a recognition, whether it's antiques or it's a photo that we took on your wedding day, it's a reminder that the people and the places and the experience around us shaped who we were. Uh, it's really cool.
Alex, that's beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
It's
Man,
beautiful. I'm like,
we could talk
my
for hours.
if you could leave listeners with one thing, and you've left us with so many amazing
Oh,
nuggets, what would it be?
ooh, okay. I think let's do two. Let's
Okay, great.
do let's do like an emotional one.
Okay.
Let's do a business side one. So let's do the business side one first because that's I don't think that's as fun, but I think it's very relevant. Um, if you are a project, you are not a partner.
Mm.
We are in the hospitality industry. We are not in the art industry. That's not to say you can't create art. You absolutely should. But as a partner, you have to recognize that the lead planner is already managing several hundred thousand, multi-million dollar production. The last thing they need to do is babysit a partner, a photographer. If the
Mhm.
planner has to worry about where you are, why you
Mhm.
haven't answered their email, what your vendor meal is, or what your dietary restrictions are, you are taxing their bandwidth. So, what can we do? Aim to be the person who adds bandwidth back into the room. When you master your own logistics, you create space for everybody to be in their creative joy.
I love
And then
that.
I guess the fun one, right?
Okay, yes. All right. Yes. Take it home.
So, the fun one is the lessons that Penelope has taught me, the
Mhm.
lessons that my friends and my family and our shared experiences have taught me. I think that legacy is built in the little unremarkable moments, in the little 1 inch moments, right?
Yeah.
How the plate hits the table, or the little quiet moments as we're getting ready or throughout the day. So I think you want to be a noticer of the little quiet exchanges, of the small details. As a photographer, if you're a photographer listening to this, you're not just documenting a party, you're documenting a legacy.
Yeah.
And I think when we make sure those snapshots of wonder, those Polaroid moments are protected for the people who will hold them 30 years from now, it's really gratifying personally, professionally, and you know that you've built a legacy for a couple and helped preserve it for generations.
So beautiful.
Oh,
Thank you,
this,
Alex. Thank you
this was
so much
fun.
for your time and your wisdom. And I cannot wait to put this together and share it with everyone.
I'm so excited. Thank you, Reagan. This was really, really wonderful. Let's do it again next week.